excited to be expanding globally. We just, at Continua, finished our version 1 end-to-end guidelines on how to build health systems, so it's a great time. How many of you already knew about Continua? Please raise your hand. I know you did because you've built a system already. Great. Excellent. For those of you who don't know Continua, it is an organization of healthcare and technology companies that never knew each other before, that came together to build a set of guidelines to help you put RFPs out for systems that are interoperable, that plug and play. That's the best way to describe Continua. It's a plug and play architecture to allow systems to be built quickly. So our mission is on personal health. And I think I heard yesterday someone say that 66% of the outlay, the revenues or payments in India are out of pocket by the consumer. We are going to have to start taking better care of ourselves, no matter where you are in the world. In the US, it's expensive. In states where they have nationalized health service, it's hard to get. So we are at Continua helping to develop, not to develop, but put the architecture in place to build these systems. So if you look at the continuum of life, or can we go to the slides? Looked at me, that's scared myself. So when you look at the continuum of life, you go through, you're an amateur athlete, you're running around. I was watching every morning all these kids out here playing cricket out my window. It was very entertaining. So you're young, you're athletic, you're moving, you're healthy. Then you get to be, you can't be out that much. You get to be kind of like me. You try to keep an active lifestyle. You try to work out as much as you can, but it's difficult at times. Then over time, potentially you become a chronic patient, and then there's an acute recovery, and then you're living independently. That's going to be a big market, the aging in place. Well, if you look at the cycle of care, we look at physicians, home care professionals, wellness coaches. There's a whole variety here. And much of what we are trying to develop is the architecture for those tools to help you go through that active lifestyle into aging in place. So right now, around the world, the healthcare system is designed to take care of you when you are broken. That's just the way the schools, the academic institutions are run. It's the way payment is run. There are very few places where people are incented to help you keep healthy. So right now, you enter the system broken, you're fixed, you leave, and hopefully you're going to have the right tools to keep from coming back in. And so that's what we're looking at is, how can we change this? I don't think we can change the system. That's going to take some time. But how can we add new solutions, add new services that will help you manage your health while you're out and keep you from coming back in? There's a lot going on here, but basically what this is saying, we think that we are well. If you look at that green line up top, you go along, you go from your teen years, you get into college, you go on out after that, you get a busy job, you're working too much, suddenly you realize, wow, I've got 20 pounds there, I didn't realize it had kind of shown up. So we think we're healthy, when in fact, we're digressing all the time. And this is even more, a bigger problem today. So if you look at that age there, way before 25, what's happening is we have childhood obesity all over the world. It doesn't matter where you are. It's an enormous problem. So kids are starting off with a disadvantage and decreasing and going down, not knowing it. So what are the tools we can help develop that will help alleviate this? Maybe I've heard of some games where some schools have given kids pedometers and they have a contest. So the kids on average with the most steps, they get their school bus painted. So every quarter, they did just for one quarter, well, the kids didn't want to stop. It actually drove their parents crazy. The kids were running up and down the stairs while they were at home so they could keep the steps up. So these are the types of ideas. And then we have to wrap business models around that. And that's what we're working on within Continua, to help technology companies like me. I'm from Qualcomm. I should have introduced myself as well. My name's Clint McClellan. I'm actually the president and chairman of Qualcomm. And I'm also in the market development group. The president and chairman of Continua. There we go. Dr. Reddy, we have a very esteemed guest here. You made me nervous. I looked right at Dr. Reddy when I said that. And I'm also in the market development group at Qualcomm. So there's a term going around that's very interesting. It's called nudging, course correcting. How can we get enough data to help us modify our behavior? You're not going to change your entire behavior, but are there indicators you can get? For example, while you're here at this conference and you had perhaps a pedometer, let's go for an easy example, and you realize that you're 5,000 steps behind. So maybe you go walk around the grounds for half an hour. Maybe you skip the cookies because you have a calorie counter. Well, how can we modify behavior? Most heart disease and chronic ailments are because of our lifestyle. So how can we help develop those tools to help modify lifestyle? So lots of data. We all know that remote health tools actually improve health. They reduce hospitalization if you can be remotely monitored while you're home to watch over some basic vitals. All the data is there. What's now missing is the ability to pull these systems together quickly. And this is a great time in the market. As I said, we've just completed the Continua, the first end-to-end guidelines. Another great innovation, Android or Google on the Android operating system, the next version, has put in the Continua Bluetooth profile. All of you working with Bluetooth know it is really difficult. I've tried to put a few systems together. I worked with Apollo to put some remote monitoring systems together with the Carlos Slim Health Institute. And when you use a standard phone, you never know what you're going to get. You sometimes end up getting, when you go to move to the next phone, does the software all transfer from one version of it to the next? Are the Bluetooth chips and profiles the same? So the advent of Google implementing the Continua Health Profile is a big move to help us begin to develop these tools. We're a little behind, so I'll catch us up. So what Continua does, we don't write standards. What we've done is we've built a bunch of profiles for all these devices that work on these different interfaces. And one is the Bluetooth. That will probably be the most prevalent, is on both hubs, on phones. So we then looked at how do we connect the devices, and we got to the outside. So we went to the Bluetooth SIG, and we modified the Bluetooth profile to make it better, to make it more secure with better pairing. We then go look at internet-based standards. So part of the guidelines includes Wi-Fi, GSM, and other basic standards. And we then go to the health record system so that we can give you the recipe for an end-to-end system. That's really what we've tried to accomplish, and we have. And that's why we're excited to bring this to India. And in the work I've done, I was the one board member that kept coming back and telling everyone not to forget about India and some of these other countries, because quite honestly, I think it's going to happen here first and with a greater momentum than anywhere else because of the need and because of the willingness and because there's a big out-of-pocket market. People here, I think, are willing to pay to be able to monitor their health. This is a very simple way to describe the architecture. Today, we're in that left-hand side of the chart where you basically have to go in with Bluetooth and modify it yourself to make sure, add the layer of security, and it can't necessarily transfer to another entity. So let's say that we were doing work with Apollo, and then we wanted to share that work with another group. You can't do it. It's very difficult. So what Continua did, we standardized those radios, standardized those profiles. So on the right-hand side, you can have plug-and-play sensors much more easily. And also, we have a standardized health record system so that you can actually start from the ground up with a standardized set. So it's HL7 version 3.2. So the idea is that there will be greater economies of scale, easier to deploy systems. And right now, all the health systems out there, most of them are proprietary. The Veterans Administration in the United States, they put out an RFP for remote monitoring systems. They got 6 different systems. Not only did they get 6 different systems, but the same scales were used throughout. A&D was used in every one, but each of the different integrators implemented Bluetooth differently. So the VA has to offer by the same scale, but with different profiles. That's not going to help us at all, as we want this to become a consumer market. We want this market to follow the consumer electronics market where, okay, 5 years ago I used to ask this question and I'd get about half the room. How many of you have a cell phone? It's a pretty silly question, isn't it? How many of you get email on your cell phone? That would not have happened 5 years ago. How many of you have more than one email account? Is that just remarkable? It's just incredible. So this is the world we want to bring to the personal health market. The great thing is there are many different segments here, and there are many different goals. But if you look at the far right, it's the same tools, the same blood pressure cuffs, the same scales, just different business models. So we want to enable a world where you look at the segment, you go, okay, what do I want to build? All right, I've got my Continua guidelines, mix and match those devices on the right. It's been deployed in Japan. We're getting some great momentum. The Japanese government has standardized on Continua. They used it in the tsunami. That was where the big first implementation went, so that these people wandering all over Japan could have a centralized health record system so that tools could be deployed quickly. And Denmark is about to standardize as well. And Singapore just standardized on Continua guidelines. Let's see. I'll do this, then we'll get to our panel. We've created a new membership at Continua. We realize that in many parts of the world, it's difficult to pay the $25,000 fee for the promoter or even the $6,500 fee. So we've got a new category for countries that have incomes, average incomes of less than $15,000. And as long as you're not part of a multinational company, you could qualify for this membership. So come and talk to me after this if you're interested. I talked to a few companies yesterday that might be. We'd love to grow the Indian Continua membership. I think this could be a flagship for the world. Great. If we can hold the questions, I'll bring the panelists up and we can get started with the panel. Let's see here. Joining me up on stage are four of my fellow Continua members. We have Abun Celia from Texas Instruments, Mike McGarry from Ascension Healthcare, Alice Borelli from Intel, and Bharat Shah from Saskin. So all of these are Continua members. Bharat is new, so we want to talk a little bit about Continua. And actually what we should do is open it up for some questions as well before we run out of time. And is there anyone? So Bharat, let's start with you. You're brand new to Continua. What was it that intrigued you, helped get you to move in?
Hello. Good morning. When Saskin started looking into it as a wireless company, where do we go to look into when it comes to the segment of a wireless and medical? One of the things after looking into it and spending a lot of time in my previous company, and that it requires a standard. And when I looked into it and talking to the people, understood that the Continua is a place that it provides where it can create a standard to be not necessarily creating a completely separate standard, but using the existing standards and putting it together so that devices and the end-to-end system do a plug and play. And this is one of the reasons that we joined Continua.
Great.
Good morning. This is Alice Borelli. I think I've done too much talking while I've been in India, so please bear with me. Intel was one of the founders of Continua, and the reason that we thought this new group was needed is because we recognized the proprietary systems that were abundant in the healthcare industry, and we didn't want to go that direction for an emerging new market, which is the personal connected device market. So we met with our fellow travelers within the United States and then internationally to develop and adopt standards, actually, that would make a plug-and-play open system available for this new market. And after the years of research Intel had done with aging population, with seniors, and looking for solutions for independent living, we thought that this was a valuable approach, and Intel, as well as the other companies here, has invested time, energy, and resources to make this available to many companies interested. As a member of the policy group, I'd like to also talk about the benefits of membership in terms of companies coming together with a central interest to talk to governments, to talk to consumers, and to talk to each other about ways to accelerate this market. So it's not just about adopting standards, is also about developing a market with government programs that will support and accelerate this new ability to connect patients, clinicians, and the rest of their personal health records. So we're very pleased to be here today. We thank you for coming, and please ask us questions when we're finished. Thank you.
Is it on though? It's not on though. Good morning. Michael McGarry with Ascension Health. We're a healthcare provider. We're one of the largest healthcare providers in the United States. And at first it may not make sense as to why, as a healthcare provider, part of a Technology Standards Alliance, we believe with all our heart that without technology standards and an ecosystem of connected health devices, we can't achieve the visions that we have to transform healthcare, not only in the United States, but globally. We have about 500 care facilities in 23 states. Today, they're completely separate. My doctors can't talk to each other. My patients can't go from one facility to the other. They can't go home and connect into the hospital unless we use a proprietary system, and that's just not feasible. It's not feasible for a system of our size to commit to one proprietary system that will serve everybody. So what we need is the ability to allow individuals, whether it be the hospitals, the physicians, or the consumers, to pick devices at will. Pick what works best for them, what's within their price range, what is a form factor that they like, seems to fit their lifestyle. That device will plug into the system and will work. It will get the data that we need as part of our care delivery system to deliver the best care that we can. So that's the primary reason that we're involved in Continua, to represent the voice of the customer, more or less, to stay in touch with the technology companies that are bringing solutions to market. Probably that's, for me personally, that's one of the greatest benefits, is to connect with over 250 companies to stay in touch with what they're doing, not only today, but what they're going to be doing 5 years from now, so that we can be preparing our clinical systems to be ready for those technologies and those solutions when they come to market.
Thank you. Good morning.
Oh, mic's on.
Yeah, I have my mic over. I think that I have a deep voice. People might hear me from the back of the room. But yes, my name is Ibn Silla, and I'm the Business Development Manager for telehealth and telemedicine at Texas Instruments. And Texas Instruments have been a member of Continua, for a while now, and we are very proud and happy to be part of it. And I think that the rationale behind our involvement within Continua can be explained by the fact that if you look at today, you go to a continent like Africa, where you have several NGOs and several U.S. aid that are pouring millions of dollars, to help, those populations to achieve a good healthcare system. You have several wireless systems that they are implementing, but none of those systems that NGOs are bringing are really talking to each other. Everybody is bringing his own standard. And we believe that even though it's helping, but it's not really optimized. We believe that at this point we need to have a more harmonic, harmony within that system. And I think that that's where Continua is coming into play, is to bring a standard that each of those guys that are bringing some wireless devices that are medical devices can be talking to each other and create that interoperability and allow manufacturers, to manufacture devices that are talking to each other, and patients. That's going to be much easier for patients, and that's going to be even cheaper for patients and governments in those places. So, having said that, in order to get that interoperability going, that's why TI believe that Continua is the best avenue to do that. And we believe that other semiconductor providers, that we give our folks, our customers, components that help them achieve, and build some market-driven products. So we should be involved in Continua, and we should be pushing Continua to help, those manufacturers achieve, the goal they wanted for their customers. So that's why, Texas Instruments have been involved within Continua, and we have been pushing to have some platforms that are Continua certified. And we believe that in a short period of time, we should be seeing some, a good interoperability within the wireless health industry.
Great, thank you. Continua has probably six different work groups, ranging from technical, a use case work group where we develop the actual use cases that the technical group will then implement, a test and certification group so that we have the test tools available so that you can, and test code. Once you become a member of Continua, you actually get access to the code to help you develop the tools, onto a market development group, because it's very evident now that these tools are in place, but we need to help build the market and make awareness out there. So that's part of another group. And then now we have a developing region work group, and policy and regulatory, because as you can imagine, you have to make sure the regulators are aware, you have to make sure the policies are written. So we basically have an end-to-end, not only a technical architecture that we spoke about, but also from technical to all the way to the policy and regulatory. So Bharat, can you tell us about the work groups you're in and what you guys are up doing?
So one of the things what Clint talked about, it also the certification. And if you look at it, whether it's a smartphone or the medical devices, it requires certification. When you put the wireless and medical device together, it requires another kind of a certification, making sure that the device is a plug-and-play device. So naturally, as part of the Continua doing is created the certification requirement. And if you compare that to the wireless certification, it's much simpler and easy to do it, and it doesn't cost a lot of money also. And that's the one thing. But the second thing, when people talk about the use case, when I looked at it from the aspect of requirement of use case, and globally, it may be different than US for India market or Japan market. And one of the things that would be looking at the India requirement, and basically in last day or so, when I have talked to the people or understand what telemedicine is doing, some of the required may be different for India market than the US market, and getting that participation from the Indian companies here, that may be one of the benefit of it. And the third thing is that what Alice talked about it with the policy making. If you look at it in US, there was a guideline created to regulate the applications which is running on a smartphone for the medical devices related. And Continua did a really good job of getting the comments from their member companies, making sure that the guidelines are appropriately commented.
Alice.
Thank you. I co-chair, along with Robert Jaron from Qualcomm, the U.S. Policy Work Group. And we have been spending the last 2 years working with the U.S. government on many of the health IT policies that have been implemented through the stimulus funding, which funded $29 billion for electronic health records, and then with healthcare reform. So with the advent of the stimulus, we saw that significant funds were being spent on electronic healthcare records, but we continue to work with the U.S. government to say, don't forget where that data is coming from. It's coming directly from the patient. Let's capture that immediately and make sure that it's part of the electronic health record. Because if you depend on someone just to write it down, it's fraught with error. But when you can capture it immediately, then you have a really valid data point for the health of that patient. So we continue to work on those pilots as well as the implementation. Secondly, healthcare reform in the U.S., as you know, has been very controversial. But the coordinated care provisions within the legislation have been widely accepted. The idea now, today, that you need to move away from a fee-for-service structure to a structure that really coordinates the providers from all parts of the industry is becoming more and more accepted. So while as we work from Continua, we want to be sure that the data captured from remote patient monitoring, from telehealth, is used to coordinate this care. So this group brings all of the partners in industry together to have a united voice for an emerging market. I think we're making progress there, and it is one central place to go to really voice our concerns and our hopes for this market.
I chair the Market Adoption Work Group, which is actually a newly formed work group about a year ago. When Continua came together, I think there was still a belief that technology, in fact, was the solution. You know, if we could just bring a connected health ecosystem to the market, that would be the solution. And in time, we quickly realized, and I think I've heard it mentioned here a couple of times, you know, technology probably is not the solution. It is an enabler. It will allow a number of solutions to happen, but without collaboration across not only companies, but perhaps even industries. How are we using, you know, when I look at healthcare, my background's in medical devices, and I used to go to healthcare conferences, and it was, you know, Medtronic and Johnson & Johnson. They were healthcare companies. Now you go to healthcare conferences, it's AT&T, it's Google, telecommunications companies, you've got, you know, life management companies, you've got so many other players coming into healthcare that can be part of a solution. So the focus of the Market Adoption Work Group is how do we bring all those various constituents together to leverage the technology ecosystem that we're putting together, or that can be put together. To Clint's point, we're not actually, Continua doesn't put the solution together. So we're focused on the business models. What are the business models that we need to drive adoption of a connected health ecosystem?
Yeah, I actually co-chair with Alice the Emerging Markets Work Group. So, and what we're trying to achieve within that work group is to expand Continua beyond, you know, where we are today. You know, we just don't want to continue focus on Japan, US, and Europe. We think that the places where, you know, we have a tremendous amount of growth, you know, is, you know, in India, China, Sub-Saharan Africa, South America, Brazil. Those are places that, you know, we believe that Continua also should be active. And that's why, you know, we have formed this work group. You know, it has been around 6 months ago. And, you know, we are making tremendous amount of progress. You know, we have launched the China work group chapter, and actually we have something like 42 companies in China that are already, you know, expressed their interest in joining Continua. And some of them have been working very hard, you know, to get some Continua certified product actually on the market. So, and we believe that by having the India launch, you know, that's going to also give a tremendous momentum to Continua, and also as well as, you know, helping the Indian manufacturers that are folks that are manufacturing, you know, medical equipment, you know, to have some guidelines that will help them also, you know, grow tremendously. And our next step, you know, within the work group is to try to set up, you know, another chapter in South Africa and in Brazil that, you know, we're going to be working in the next coming years. So far, you know, what we have been doing for the emerging markets, you know, have been very promising, and, you know, we have been we have been getting good responses from folks, you know, in those regions, and we believe that, you know, we're going to be expanding pretty soon. So.
Great. And it's the one organization in this market where you have all the experts. Me as the chairman, I have a tough time keeping up. We've got technical experts, we've got regulatory experts, we've got so many specialists, but it's the one place you can come to actually learn from that. And now as we expand, we can learn from each other. And I'm actually excited about this market because I think the US will learn a lot from India, quite honestly. And that's about the market, technically what works, and that's another reason for Continua to expand, because we're all looking at the same problems. It doesn't matter where you go. It's connecting a patient or connecting a consumer or building a consumer system that helps someone manage their health. We're all shooting for the same goals. So that's why we're so excited about this. And actually, we have a little time, so do we have any questions? Yes. Maybe give you a microphone. Oh, you got it. Great.
India is a very price-sensitive market with 40 million diabetics, and the potential to bring a low-cost product is very high here. I just want to ask a question here. Like we are faced with a lot of lifestyle diseases around the globe, and what are the issues, in bringing our ANT Plus like a technology into Continua 4, where the total cost of developing a product is much less compared to a BTLE or Zigbee. So that will in turn help emerging markets to reduce the total healthcare costs. It's not just healthcare devices, but fitness and wellness kind of devices.
Right.
Like TI, for example, is now embracing SOC with both BTLE and ANT Plus. And Garmin is, and not just Garmin, there are a lot of 200 plus.
I just came back from the ANT Plus forum. Yes, you're right. So ANT Plus is a very low-cost radio. It's not part of the Continua guidelines because it didn't have the appropriate security and privacy for healthcare, but they've got a very robust ecosystem. And we were looking at this last week. If you're looking at a blood pressure cuff and you want something a hospital will trust, then we've got the Continua guidelines that will be FDA approved and all that. But on the other hand, if it's just wellness and you want a simple heart rate monitor and a pedometer, then there's another ecosphere called the ANT Plus ecosphere, absolutely. And what they have done, the ANT world, the radios aren't as secure, but that's okay. It's just for heart rate, it's a pedometer. But when they get to what's called the hosting device, which is the phone, they've built an interface to go to Continua health records. So that's a good hybrid that's low cost. You're absolutely right.
So, well, one of the, ANT is actually a member. They're a Continuum member.
Yeah, they're a member.
Their radio may not be part of the standards. We tend to be, and this is an error on our part, we tend to be US-centric in the organization. And so ANT didn't meet the security standards for what's required in the United States. It may be the best radio for the rest of the world. Yeah. That's why we're reaching out to the rest of the world to encourage you to join us so that we can expand our scope and better understand how we can bring a more global solution. As Clint said, India potentially could lead the way in telehealth. Clearly the market is here. The need is here. That's the primary reason that my health delivery system is looking at India. How can we bring low-cost solutions primarily to poor and vulnerable communities and to rural communities? Tremendous challenge in the United States as well to do that. So, this is an outreach to the rest of the world to say, hey, we're off to a great start, but we need involvement from other countries to make sure we keep a global scope on the project.
Anand. Yes, and that we're just at that point now where we can do that. To date, to take the continuous specifications has taken a little extra integration work, and to the gentleman's point over here, there were other systems you could use, but we're at the point now, we're just a little ahead of the technology. Google, Android will implement this natively. The phones will be expensive at first, they'll come down. Developers will be able to take this and develop hubs, but that's what the market adoption work group is working on, and I want to work on, is how can we now keep track of what these systems look like? What's too expensive, what's not too expensive, what do doctors accept, what do consumers, what does that market look like? Yeah.
Yeah, hi. My name is Jay, I'm from Cisco. My question is to Mr. Clint. If you look at the list of Continua approved medical devices today, majority of them are medium and small scale medical device manufacturers. And our large medical device manufacturers still use their proprietary protocols for interoperability. Is there any specific initiative in Continua to really bring them on board so that there is a large-scale adoption from the Continua perspective?
We do have some major medical device manufacturers that are going to implement the Continua protocols. We've got major companies like Roche and some others that are doing that. And what you're going to see is a disruption in the market. You're going to have lots of pressure from smaller, innovative companies that will hopefully pull them along as well.
Good morning. I'm A.K. Sangal, closely associated with telemedicine since it started in the country, in India. And I have seen, in healthcare, there is a definite need and good market in the country. I'll give you a simple example. 10 years back, when there were no mobiles in the country, and nobody expected in India that people have money to pay for the mobile. Today, even the laborer has mobile, about 70 to 80% of the people. And how the market is driven is that there is a definite need. When there is a need, you can get the returns, ROI, you definitely have the market. So it's true of e-health in the country. India has about 70 to 80% of the people living in villages. Now they need healthcare very badly. And it's sure for next 10 years, Indian doctors will not go to the villages. So e-health is very much important and it will have a market definitely, but it has to be tailored to the requirement of the country. For example, the mobiles have been changed in different languages. It has Devanagari, that is Hindi characters, the villagers can interact with in that language. The e-health, if these devices are sent to the villagers, they will not understand anything. It will live in the societies, it will be in the primary health cares, and nothing will happen. So they have to be tailored to the requirement of the developing society. It could be India, it could be Asia as a whole, as also Africa. That's my view.
Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Dr. Pawan Gupta. I'm a cancer surgeon. What the sir has said, in India, actually what we are requiring is low-cost system, which we can lead to, like what I think is that we need some hubs, because if we go to the village level, probably the comprehensive health care or comprehensive health management cannot be taken by the individual himself or herself. We need people like A&M and ASHA workers to be updated, who can take care and update their data and keep them, tell them what to do and what not to do. But at the same time, the urban areas, where we can go directly for the personal health systems, personal healthcare system, where they can themselves, like going for specific like cervical examination, self-cervical examination, self-oral examination, self-breast examination systems. And even including that, we need to have diabetes, blood pressure, which is everyone is doing, but we need to add cancer to that. So something which we can develop a comprehensive system, which with small gadgets can do it. That is that we need to have two systems. One is for the village level, where people would help out this directly, some A&M or ASHA workers or some group, and personal levels for the.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well actually we have time for maybe one more question. Yes, sir.
Thank you. I wanted to know whether the medical devices company that join Continua, do they have to meet any regulatory approval, such as FDA or CE mark? And if, say, a Chinese medical device company meet the Continua criteria, can it be marketed elsewhere, or what's the relationship between regulatory approval versus the Continua standard?
Sure. Well, if I understand the question correctly, a Continua, stamp of approval has no regulatory bearing. It simply means, from a technology standpoint, it's a plug and play. So completely different than any. It's not a regulatory approval. Was that your question?
Yeah. What are the similarities and differences between the criteria for regulatory approval versus Continua standard?
Sure. So the Continua approval simply means, from a technology standpoint, it'll plug and play into the system. From a regulatory standpoint, you're typically there looking at safety, efficacy, et cetera. So Continua logo devices will be both regulatory approved, that you'll see an FDA approved device with a Continua logo on it. It'll also be in consumer devices that have not been through the regulatory process. So purely a technology stamp. Similar to a Bluetooth. If you see a Bluetooth, you know it's going to work with a Bluetooth headset, with a Bluetooth phone. If you see a Continua stamp, that means it'll work with any other Continua-enabled device.
Great. Well, I'd like to thank. Yes.
I just wanted to comment quickly on what the gentleman has said about, the low cost. Actually, ANPLUS is a low cost solutions. I agree. But what I'm seeing out there is, okay, Continua is there, it has already set the guidelines, but you have so many technologies actually that are available that can help achieve, much lower cost. Now, as we move into regions, maybe, you'll find some technologies that are suitable for one region and is not for another region. And that's where, Continua will open up, and try to analyze it, how we're going to integrate those standards as well. So what I'm seeing, for example, is actually, with this e-health stuff, you have so many proprietary solutions today. So, and those proprietary solutions are not really helping. They're not helping the manufacturers, they're not helping the consumers. So now we need to now bring, those guys, into Continua in such a way that now you have this interoperability, you can take care of the scale, and then you can much lower the cost of the equipment and for the patients and for the manufacturers as well.
Clint, can I add one more thing?
Oh.
Mike? I just wanted to add that Continua is a volunteer organization. We're all representing our companies, but we volunteer our time because we believe in that this interoperability issue is going to work. So in starting a Continua chapter in India, it really will depend on grassroots interest, investing in the process, because there is very little direct staff that's involved in the emerging markets. It depends on the companies here to really drive these solutions. So I just wanted to add that one piece, that India companies will drive India's solutions for Continua. Thank you.
Great. I'd like to give a hand to the panelists. Thank you all very much. We will all be around for the rest of the afternoon as well if you have further questions. Oh, great.
Present the mementos. No, you give it. We request the coordinator to present. Madam,
Oh, great. Thank you. Should have everyone grab theirs, I guess?
yeah, you can come here so that they will take it. You may have to do an action replay.
That's it. Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we're going through it one.
This is to Ibu Silla. Yes.
Even I request you to give it to Alice.
All right. Okay, thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I now have the great pleasure of introducing Dr. Pratap Reddy. I had an opportunity to meet him earlier this summer, and the evolution of Apollo hospitals was remarkable to me. Dr. Reddy had a patient that he was working with here in India, and the patient at one point then needed to go see a specialist in the United States. And that patient couldn't afford to do that and ended up passing away here in India. So from that point on, Dr. Reddy realized that he had to revolutionize the health industry here, and has done nothing short of creating one of the world's largest health organizations. I was so impressed by that. And the other thing I'm impressed about is that they treat the patient like a customer. They want to know about the satisfaction. They want to know that they've left and that they're going to recover well. That doesn't happen where I come from or in many other parts of the world, where once you're gone, you're not making them any more money. So that, to me, was remarkable. And so I have his biography here. He's a compassionate humanitarian dedicated to bringing world-class health care within the economic and geographic reach of millions of patients. Best describes Mr. Reddy. Dr. Reddy received his medical degree from the Stanley Medical College in Chennai and last trained as a cardiologist in the UK and the USA. He did his fellowship from the Massachusetts General Hospital in Boston and went on to head several research programs at the Missouri State Chest Hospital, where he worked for several years before returning to India in 1978 at the behest of his father. This act of leading by example in reversing the brain drain eventually became an agenda with Apollo Hospitals, India's first corporate hospital that spawned the country's burgeoning private healthcare industry. The dream of making world-class medical facilities in India spurred him to set up the Apollo Hospitals in Chennai in 1983, at a time when private healthcare institutions were virtually unknown in this country. The new hospital attracted the best medical talent, including eminent non-resident Indian doctors from hospitals in the US and UK. This was the first major reversal in the pattern of brain drain. Starting from a 150-bed hospital in 1983, the group has since continuously excelled and maintained leadership in medical innovation, world-class clinical services, and cutting-edge research. With a network of over 8,500 beds across 54 hospitals at culturally diverse locations in India and overseas, over 4,000 top-class clinicians, and total employee strength of more than 65,000 professionals, the Apollo Group is one of the largest hospital groups in the world, being consistently ranked amongst the best hospitals for advanced medical services. These hospitals have served over 20 million patients from 55 countries, with 7 of them having the prestigious JCI accreditation. Dr. Reddy's pioneering successes include the initiation of change towards preventive care by pushing for a new standard in assessing and diagnosing India's health to fight the triple terrors of heart, diabetic, and cancer diseases through preventive health checks. Telemedicine, as in the world's first VSAT-enabled village, and health insurance, like the Aragonda one-day scheme, were other successful pilots. So would you all please welcome me